Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro. Well, hello there, everybody. It is the week of May 18th to 24th, and we are here to tell you about a whole bunch of planets that are finally changing signs. Tali here in Seattle.
And Ophi in New York, getting ready for Venus and Mars to change signs, the sun to move out of Taurus into Gemini. There's a lot happening. We are going into quite a slate of Gemini planets on the one hand, but then into some new ones with Mars and Venus this week.
That's right. Monday, May 18th, both of the love planets, Venus and Mars, are moving into new, kind of more romantic or sweet, old-fashioned signs. It's not often that they actually switch signs on the very same day. This is just one of those coincidental moments. So Venus, after spending a few weeks in Gemini, buzzing around, and I enjoyed Venus and Gemini. I feel like it brought a real social energy. I did a lot more like going out in the evenings. I went to events. I let myself, say yes when someone offered to buy me a drink when I was out. I was like, oh, why not? It was kind of why not energy. But now Venus is heading into Cancer, which is a lot more close and cozy and introspective and cuddly. Between now and June 13th, we might want to bring it in a little bit or invite people over to socialize at our homes. And Mars is
Well, you're
supporting
going to
that
do that
too.
actually with your garden. I think you're having some people over to see the garden that you've been sharing about your build out of
It's
over the
true.
past few weeks. So it is a nice time for entertaining.
I
And
know.
with
It's kind of my garden
Mars,
debut. And I will be, people have been asking me to share some photos of it. So I will snap some of the in progress photos. I do have some before and after, but it's kind of in the early stages, but I think it's looking cute. I hung up some lights out here this weekend. My very handy ex came over to help me with that. So that was nice and kind. And yeah, try to do our conscious uncoupling thing over here, as an Aries and Sag are wont to do. Mars and Taurus. So Mars finally out of Aries. Thank God. I'm
ooh,
sorry.
that was a lot. That was a lot. That started April 9th, and there was so much that happened to go along with that. Um,
Wars and war on war, like, can we
yeah,
please stop blowing things up and killing each other? I mean, there's never a time when that message isn't important, but it's just, Mars is the planet of war, and in Aries, its home sign, if it's, there's lots of things worth fighting for, right? Like voting rights, say, but there, Mars and Aries can be egregiously overstepping, domineering, out of control. And we've just seen so much abuse of power since April 9th, like just flaring up in ways. So when it
and
settles into,
aggression and toxic masculinity and
yeah,
so much of that. I mean, there was, as people are still talking about, there were 7 planetary or cosmic placements in Aries at the April 17th Aries new moon. There have been so many conjunctions with Mars and Chiron in
oh God,
Aries and then squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So it was a lot of cardinal sign energy, which is dominant, domination driven, it's competitive.
aggressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what this, because a lot of people had high hopes for Jupiter and Cancer being like supportive of feminism and women's rights, but it really hasn't been. We've had some of the worst women leadership ever. Women have gotten fed up with the toxic masculinity culture, but then we've also had the rise of trad wives in this sort of aggressive sort of way, which is so bizarre. And the stew of Jupiter and Cancer, because Jupiter really is sort of bravado and ego. Zeus, it's the god of gods. So in Cancer, it's supposedly in its favorite place, but we have seen what Tali has coined she-go, the female ego, run amok with Jupiter and Cancer, and then set off against all this Saturn, Neptune, Mars, Mercury, Sun, Chiron, and Aries that we dealt with over the spring. It's like, okay, it's just ego, ego everywhere.
I mean, there is one, and sad that it comes down to this, but Jupiter in Cancer did protect mifepristone, the abortion pill access by mail, to
Mm.
continue on Thursday of last week. So there were people challenging that, of course, uh, but it's still being allowed to be used via telehealth, prescribed via telehealth, and mailed. So,
I mean, I posted something about the estrogen patch shortage a couple of weeks ago that accompanied that, which was wild. Progesterone and estrogen blamed on the FDA removing their warnings that were from a way outdated medical study about estrogen and progesterone safety. Supposedly, a wave of HRT uh, prescriptions overtook everything. And then there was all this news that manufacturing would be backed up for 2 to 3 years. So
good
um,
God.
I know. So of course, private providers had a supply. So I almost think it's just probably a market
It feels like
economic thing,
like
like it always
exactly,
is. Oh,
like
now
there's
there's a
always
demand. We'd better yeah, play
the
around with
market
that.
manipulation over the last year and a half has been just so disturbing. There's so many insider trading, there's all these insider trading violations that are happening to poly market, but there's no regulations. And one of the things that Cancer does rule, Jupiter in Cancer, though, is your nest egg. And we can't forget that Jupiter, while common interpretations, it's the planet of luck and good fortune, Jupiter is also Zeus, the bloviating, aggrandizing, self-enriching, God of gods who, doesn't have any sense of when enough's enough or propriety either. So Jupiter can also show where we go way overboard. And I think the whole conservative, like, push for families, push for, the fear mongering around birth rates and the push for children. I think I even talked about this last week on the podcast. I saw a video of a white country singer redoing Janet Jackson's
Yeah.
90s song Let's Wait a While, which is about like waiting before having sex. So just like those just
Speaking of Janet Jackson, she just turned 60 over this past weekend. She's a fire
oh
horse, May 16th. So she was posting her birthday party pictures and videos, which looked kind of sweet and fun. I mean, if anyone deserves a proper 60th birthday party, it's Janet. So so it looked like she had a good time and was celebrated in a
yeah.
very like
The
Taurus
youngest
way.
Jackson, I was, now with the Michael Jackson movie out, there's been a lot of Jackson 5 and Jackson family clips circulating, and Janet was such a adorable, saucy child, and I remember her being Penny on Good Times and loving her. She was
Mhm.
like the foster kid that Lona adopted, and yeah. or like her mom was abusive or something, and so Lona got custody of
The
her. Yeah.
unforgettable episodes of
Oh,
good times.
sorry to
To
anyone who
be
missed those, but that,
to be a Gen Xer.
God, how we
Yes.
loved our sitcoms. And
Yeah, we
they were
did.
so
There's
good. Damn, 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 James. If you know, you
uh
know. If you know, you know. I don't have a plate
mhm.
to drop, a platter shatters on the floor. But yeah, that was heavy stuff we watched on.
Florida. Florida Evans. Well, what would that be today? I don't even want to
Well, as
know.
Mars goes into Taurus, we're drifting into new kind of family
Nostalgia.
energy. Yeah, this is very Venus and Cancer, Mars and Taurus, like longing for simpler times. I mean, Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is the planet of peace. So Mars, the planet of war, is going to a sign that's ruled by the planet of peace. So perhaps, like we keep hoping, actually, I didn't have much hope for any kind of agreements to be reached
In
before,
China.
yeah, before, well, yeah, let's talk about that. So here we are, where the stage is
Dun.
now set. We've got Venus and Cancer, Mars and Taurus. So on a personal level, there may be a desire to just like, turn off the news, check out, focus on the people in front of you. But that's not really going to be possible because in comes Gemini, right? The
Yep, we've got the
sun.
sun on Wednesday moving into Gemini for a month. We've got Mercury there now, Venus today. But really, the big differentiator of this Gemini season is that Uranus is in Gemini for the first time since 1941 to 49. So, the end of the week, which we'll get into, we have the first Sun Uranus meetup in Gemini of most of our lives. So, some of our listeners were born in the 1940s, maybe even in the 1930s. That would be awesome. But even if you were still you were a child or at most a teen the last time Uranus was in Gemini. So, everyone listening and reading our horoscopes, it's safe to bet, with maybe a couple of outliers being the exception, that none of us have experienced adulthood with Uranus and Gemini before.
Mhm.
And interestingly, I was looking into what happened the last time because I was thinking about how Gemini rules the mind. And I've been talking to a lot of people, and their experience of Uranus and Gemini has been what I'm calling the Gemini jitters,
Mm,
where, we're already
yes.
busy doing because of the world we live in. But what a lot of people are reporting is like, going down a rabbit hole, full focus, and then having to pull out and go to something completely different. Like one minute you're, building an app, the next minute you're doing 10th grade English homework, if you're me, or just these very unrelated. Gemini is like this multi everything. It's almost like we've become octopi and are like doing all these different things at once or one after another. So I'm noticing like, whoo, I got to kind of manage the cognitive load. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about neuroscience and some of the tools that I've learned over the past few years. I looked into it. I was like, neuroscience only became a thing in 1962.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't, yeah, which is,
Aquarius South Node, then, by the way.
yeah, okay, very interesting. And Saturn in Aquarius too. So,
Mm,
but so I thought,
Aquarius
what did the
ruling
last
that.
Uranus and Gemini give us? Because Gemini rules the mind and communication and mental health and all of our processes. Well, that's when clinical psychology actually became a thing. So
Wow.
psychology, yeah, the American Psychology Association completely redid itself in the 1940s while Uranus was last in Gemini because uh, all the soldiers came back traumatized with PTSD, and they needed to quickly be able to mobilize people to treat them. There were just so many of them in trauma that clinical psychology exploded around 1944-45 after World War II and as soldiers came home. So the last Uranus and Gemini cycle gave us the therapy. So if, for those of us who are like, why didn't our parents understand us or our grandparents or great grandparents? Well, they didn't even have therapy.
Right.
Like, I think we take for granted how much we know. Like, we grew just like the digital natives that are kids today never didn't have apps and screens and swipes. Well, and we didn't. Perhaps we have both of those experiences. Well, think about the people before the last Uranus and Gemini cycle had no access to modern psychology. They would get lobotomies and electric shock and pills. They still got pills, but it was,
Mm.
or they'd get institutionalized or,
I was just
you know,
looking at, John Bowlby, who is a big founding researcher in attachment theory.
hmm,
He began exploring the effects of maternal separation in the 1940s and 50s.
oh,
So it
wow.
was only like during Uranus and Gemini the last time, and produced his foundational report on it to the World Health Organization in 1951, but the framework only emerged in 1958. He was a Pisces, by the way.
Hmm.
So who better than that? February 26th, Pisces. Who better than that to really understand the pain of separation and attachment than a
Huh.
Pisces who knows how to just have those boundaries blur. So, yeah, so that was
Interesting.
it really, and he was born in 1907, so obviously he was doing work before that, but it really only began to emerge
Yeah, there were separate
then.
branches of um it didn't come together in this sort of field of clinical psychology until the 1940s is what I was reading. So Uranus and Gemini is really reshaping how we deal with our cognitive processes, which is so interesting because Gemini is also dialogue. And here we have chat bots. Well, we have all the AI controversy. It's so interesting how many I keep reading about yet another person speaking at a university commencement and trying to cheerlead for AI to graduating students who are anxious about the job market and getting booed. So
Wow.
polarizing reactions. Polarity is a
Getting
real
booed while everybody
Gemini
writes their papers with it
with it.
anyways.
Exactly. I know there's all these,
The virtue signaling, I mean, I'm
there's
not,
so many
it's interesting.
Instagram and TikTok videos like rightly critiquing AI, but then the captions written with Claude or Chat GPT. It's like this is where we find ourselves at the beginning of Uranus and Gemini, um, which is going to be until 2033. So, what's very interesting to me though is like what are our cognitive and mental functions? How can we take care of our cognitive health? And, you know, how can we communicate better? You went to a birthday party where there were,
Yeah, I went to a
where
birthday party that was organized around this work called the Wheel of Consent. It was all women, so it was interesting, but it's used in all sorts, it's like you literally asked people, you partnered up and at first we kind of explored what a yes feels like in our body, like on our own. Like, what does it feel like when you say yes? And what does it feel like physically when you say no? And then we held an object in our hand and kind of just with eyes closed, explored the feeling. And I unfortunately picked this really pokey plastic rabbit the
huh,
first time. I was like, I hate this thing. But then, I was like, I guess I'll file my nails with its ears or something. But, then we did the pairing up where it was like, all just on each other's arms or our backs, like whatever. But like, how would you like to be touched. How would you like me to touch you? I had someone scratch my back and, I braided her hair, but I was like, oh my God, I was so scared because I was like,
This is
this is
very Mars
really,
and Taurus
as a
too,
Gen
the touch.
Xer, we didn't, we don't ask those questions. I think like Gen Z and millennials are much more comfortable with, but even they, it's like there's something really nice. I could see just the how useful this is in any capacity, but how nice that can be with like dating and starting a relationship instead of like, oh my God, is he gonna kiss me? Or just talking
I
about
just
it,
saw something
asking
about
about it.
touch, actually, that there was some study done where people were given a 20-second hug before going out on stage and speaking in one group, and then another group wasn't. And
Hmm.
how the people who had the hug, I think it was 20 seconds, had their whole nervous
Yeah, it's
system
30 or
was
20 or
in
30.
like a
Yeah.
whole different state and they were calm and present. It's so fun. I mean, this is so like the as we leave Uranus and Taurus, Uranus being the shocker, the disruptor, the
Hmm.
and in having been in Taurus from 2018 to this last April 25th of this year, um, how the violation of touch came out in that time with the whole Me Too movement and the priests and the Epstein files. And there was so much around that, that healthy, supportive, consensual touch has really become so hard. It's become such a
Right. There's people who are like, well,
complicated
I'm a
topic.
hugger. It's like, well, you can't, who cares
Can't
if
do
you're
that
a
anymore.
hugger? Are you a hugger? It's like, great.
Right.
Like,
That used to be a normal thing to say.
I
And
mean,
it's
even, I don't know, I haven't lived in New York full time for a while, but, when I left, everyone kissed each other on the cheek when they greeted. I don't know. Do people do
hated
that
that. Coming from
anymore after
Detroit, I was like,
COVID? Like after COVID, do they even do that anymore?
I
Probably
haven't
not.
really noticed that anyone does that actually. I think we went back to hugging.
Yeah, I remember when I moved to Seattle, I was so in the flow of that. And like, I would kiss people on the cheek and they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like,
Which
oh my
I
God, oh my
thought when
God.
I first moved
So,
to New York, I was like,
oh yeah,
what?
I hated it, but then I kind of went along with
Kind
it.
of
And I
get
was like,
into it.
yeah, but like,
Just what you
we're
do, you
so
forget.
awkward around touch in
I mean, the
general as
Dutch
humans,
kiss
but
people 3 times on the cheek. So
wow.
my
But I
daughter's
feel like
father is Dutch. I was like, oh God, this is never gonna end. But it kind of goes along. I mean, one of the and
do they
we need
still
to
do it?
remind you that this Tuesday, May 19th, is our monthly manifestation meetup, our free 1 hour kind of just get together, virtual get together, manifesting, going into Gemini/Mercury season. More on that in a second. But in last month's, which was our Taurus Venus season, I was um, sharing that I had just read this Newsweek special issue about women, girls, and autism. I grabbed it at the airport
Mm.
on my way to Miami, and it was fascinating. Um, and I had joked about being a high functioning, neuro delightful person on the last month's manifestation meetup after reading that. Because what I really learned from this is, and this is very Venus and Cancer to talk about how women's issues and Jupiter in Cancer, that they would publish that. So many women who are on the quote unquote spectrum, neurospicy or ADHD or I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
different variations, but it's almost undetectable for many because we are taught how to mask from such a young age. We're taught how to modify our own behavior, just being female or born female uh, on the planet. That masking, signs of being neurospicy or neurodelightful is not that big of a deal, but the anxiety is felt is internalized. So that's really got me thinking, and some of my friends, and
Mm.
I'm now kind of picking up on like like a lot of our clients or women that I've met, they'll ruminate a lot on things, or they'll have a hard time with that rejection sensitivity, as it's called. That might be something that Venus and Cancer and Mars and Taurus give us the spaciousness to explore. I believe we all have some version of that. And I think we're all spiced by, thinking about the Spice Girls coming out in
Yeah.
the last time Saturn was in Aries, but
Right.
our lives have been spiced up by technology since about that time, as it's become such a big part of our lives. And so I feel like as we go into this super Gemini phase and Uranus and Gemini for 8 years, like exploring how your neuro personality is shaped could be a worthy cause. I mean that's what we
Yeah.
our book, The Astrology Advantage, which has our I am system, where you find out if you're either an innovator, authority, or maven. Many of you guys have it. If you don't, highly recommend. It was designed around that, to with the premise of becoming more of who you are, not less. That's why we got into astrology in the first place, because there is no one size fits all way of being, but we live in a world that really tries to enforce that. So people are living in these varying degrees of anxiety trying to fit in with that. I really feel like the 3 planets in Gemini that we're going to have for the rest of the month, culminating in that Sagittarius full moon, May 31st. So the sun, Mercury, Uranus. We just said goodbye to Venus, but we're still in the afterglow of it. I feel like that's really going to give us an opportunity to shape how we talk about our needs. The way you did with
Yeah,
the wheel of
inside.
consent as
Yeah, I
well.
mean, I find that I think those needs are going to be brought, like not so heady as they were, but more like tuning into the sensations inside of our bodies,
Yeah. Well,
which
that's Mars and Taurus for
Mars
sure.
and Taurus and Venus and Cancer, it's like, how does it feel? And actually pausing and letting ourselves sit and respond, which is not, my neuro spiciness. I guess it's like maybe it is rejection, sensitivity, anxiety, or whatever it is. It's like the whole idea of being like asking someone, "Oh, can I braid your hair?" But even like, even just the awareness that I got of how scary it is to ask a question of someone like, and how, like that. I mean, I was married for 17 years, so like, this skill would have been helpful because even within that, it could be, in an intimate relationship, it can be like, oh God, what if I ask for that and they don't want to give it to me? And then you just sort of shut down or get in your head. But there's ways that don't have anything to do with human touch, just general requests.
Communication. Well, that's the Gemini part. I think the human touch, or the embodied or somatic part, is going to finally get some support from Venus and Mars being in Cancer and Taurus. But then the articulating of it with Mercury and Uranus in Gemini and the Sun, we're gonna start to find words for what we're
Well,
feeling,
yeah, and
hopefully.
speaking of the connection between the somatic field and the mental anxiety field, this is a good moment for us to drop in a word from our amazing sponsor, the Apollo Neuro.
My favorite daily tool that helps me stay in the flow.
And with the Gemini jitters heating up,
This is how I'll be fending off the Gemini jitters. So we'll be right back. Our very first sponsor, the Apollo Wearable, is one that's close to my heart, literally. It just so happens to be tucked into my bra right now. The Apollo is a wearable device that delivers silent, soothing sound wave vibrations to the body that signals safety to the brain through the sense of touch, similar to how your body responds to a hug or snuggling a pet. I met the founder of the Apollo a couple of years ago while I was speaking at the Milken Global Conference. He gave me his device to wear during my talk, and I was amazed by how in the zone I was. In fact, when I finished, Holly was like, "Wow, you were really focused." Well, I came to find out that he had set the device to focus mode, and I was intrigued. So I got one for myself, and I've been wearing it almost every day for 2 years. So, what really impressed me about the Apollo is that it's based on over 60 years of neuroscience research and has been validated in 17 clinical trials. It's the first wearable technology to improve sleep, heart rate variability, and energy just by wearing it. And I can attest to that. I change up the setting depending on whether I want to wind down or perk up or get into the zone. And it has this patented low frequency bass vibrations that actually modulate your vagus nerve activity. That's a big thing I've
Hmm.
heard people talking about. Again, I can attest to that. I often put it on the mindfulness or recover setting when I'm a little stressed out. If you're someone who has brain fog or ADHD, the Apollo actually can help you focus. My favorite setting is the focus mode. And I put it on before I write anything or help my daughter with her homework. It really gets me into a state of concentration. I can wear it on my wrist or my ankle or clip to my clothes. It pairs with your phone and then you can set it. You can also use Smart Vibes, which I've started using, and that takes sleep data from your Apollo. If you wear it for a week, to learn your body's patterns over time and automatically deliver the right support at the right time, day and night. So, as a special gift to our podcast listeners, Apollo is offering $99 off the purchase of any device. Just go to apolloneuro.com/astrotwins and use the code astrotwins for $99 off. Again, that's apolloneuro.com/astrotwins with code astrotwins for $99 off.
Welcome back, everyone. Whew, I feel calmer just listening to that.
I'm wearing my I'm as advertised, I'm wearing my Apollo right now on focus, so
In the
I
old
don't leave
bra.
home without it.
I know
I
I need to clip mine into my bra. What am I thinking? Why have I not done that? I just keep wearing it on my wrist because I like the feeling there. So as I
I
realize
really
that the
like it
wheel
on
of
my heart.
consent, I like a nice rubbing, soft touch on my wrist, you know?
I mean, you can really put it anywhere as long as it's vibrating against your skin. I wore it on my wrist at first for a long time, and then I was like, oh, I can put it on my heart, and that really soothes me. So the cat with the Capricorn rising, asking for a hug is hard for me, and that. So I'm going to start to do some research on this wheel of consent. I think, it's funny. I was at the coffee shop, my local coffee shop, and there was this guy and his girlfriend. They were probably in their early 30s. And he was really trying to, he was like, well, we probably shouldn't take your car because then you'll, we're going to go in a pool and the seats will get wet. Oh, and then you can do that. He was like being very nurturing, but overbearing. And I was just thinking,
Mm.
like, people just do not know how to be in relationship anymore. I was thinking, like, on the one hand, how sweet that he's being so caring. On the other hand, why is he infantilizing her? And on the other hand, this is none of my damn business. But I couldn't help but reflect on, like, how hard it is to find the spot of, like, giving other people the space to be full grown ass adults, but also feel nurtured and cared for. And my
Wit.
energetic attunement was like, oh my gosh, just
Which
this is,
means giving them the space to say yes or no. And I think we're very afraid of hearing no. We interpret it as rejection. We go down those, oh my God, like they they don't want anything I have and they don't want my toys and they don't like me. And it's just like a no is a no, and no is a hard thing to say and a hard thing to hear, but something that I think is part of our evolution. And so the author of The Wheel of Consent, I believe she's in her 80s now. Her name is
wow. Oh, I didn't know it was a book.
Dr. Yeah, there's a book, The Art of Receiving and Giving. I wanted to share that. I'll put a link in to the Wheel of Consent site. Dr. Betty Martin,
Hmm.
and I think she's here in Washington State. And she
I wonder
does
what
all kinds
sign
of,
she is.
I know, of course, I'm
Of
trying to
course, the
find that
creator of
too.
the Apollo Neuro, Dr. Dave, is a Gemini. I asked him personally when I met him and
Hmm.
first learned about it. He's a Gemini neuroscientist. You got to love that. How on brand. So I wonder what Dr. Betty is. Not
Yeah,
to.
I mean that there's, it's Michael Dresser, who's a certified sexological body workers also. So there's a lot of it does go into the erotic realm as well. So just heads up for everyone. But yeah, it's there's coaches, there's all sorts of things,
Which is
but it's
interesting because there's all this research now about the sex recession I've been seeing, and
mhm.
how, I mean, this is very Pluto and Aquarius too, how like people are not dating, and most people are saying, well, it's because it's too damn expensive. And I think we're
I
just, in our
That's
2026 book,
interesting.
we have a whole thing about how called relationships 2.0, and we always say like relationships are in the middle of a big iOS update in a lot of ways because, again, people, I just was watching that couple at the coffee shop. I was like, 15 years ago, we would have thought, oh, isn't that sweet? He's being such a protector, a provider. But there's something happening now where like women want to be, I think it's always
Well,
been happening.
nurturing in the wrong measure can violate boundaries because it's
Yeah.
not taking into account your wants and needs. It's not giving space. These It says on the Wheel of Consent site, learn to touch, a powerful practice which will change the way you feel, literally. Enjoy better boundaries, unlock your connection with choice and communication. Meet your needs, get what you want without taking advantage, and then build a healthy relationship, receiving and giving without clear communication. Believe me, I was terrified to go. I just went because I love my friend, but I was also like, you know what? If I feel terrified about something, sometimes I think that's a sign where I need to examine why. And when I dug underneath, I was like, I'm just scared of rejection or feeling weird. But it turned out everyone there felt that way, and there were all, people were at varying levels of experience with this, and it was,
Well, I feel like touch lives at the intersection of Taurus and Gemini because
yeah,
Taurus is the sensory and sensual,
right.
but Gemini rules the hands. And what you're saying about like kind of having this growth mindset ties into the AI stuff. Me being the techie nerd, but also conscious of like horrified by what I'm reading about data centers and the violations of toward the planet, toward people's rights, overstepping of the law, the awfulness of the tech industry, the duality once again that is Gemini. I read a fascinating article on Fast Company about um, how to not compete with the machines, but these new kinds of quotients. Like we used to look at IQ and EQ, your intelligence and emotional capacity. The author is arguing, well, listen, there's AI has caught up to that almost. People are getting these people are using AI as dating and therapists. Not that that's the right thing to do or anything, but what that says is it understands how to mirror back to us what we need. It has the intelligence. So trying to beat it at its own game is not going to happen. But there are, the author, I think it was a woman, identified other quotients called like the TQ, the trust quotient. How trustworthy are you? That's not necessarily something that can be replicated. Or the VQ, the vision quotient. What's your big vision? And this is where it ties into what Tali just said. Um, AI, even though people may think it's sentient, it only can know what already exists. It goes out with its vectors and searches whatever information is publicly available to it.
It's
And
the
then
biggest copyright infringement
it is
heist
that too.
IP violation
It's
ever.
that too. It's that
Yeah.
too. In many cases, there's a big class action lawsuit that we're eligible for because of
Really?
Anthropic using one of our books, one or two of our books without permission. Yeah.
Oh,
So who
wow.
knows? Maybe we'll get some money from Claude, um, but it's gone out and searched what already exists. So the only way to beat AI is to continuously innovate and create something that doesn't exist. I mean, if you use it as your thinking partner for that, great, but it can't replicate. I mean, this is not like me cheerleading for AI. I'm just saying, like, we have to remember that it is biased towards what already exists, just like our intuition. Our intuition searches, what we call our intuition is sometimes biased by memories, bodily sensations, emotions, and past experiences. So both AI and quote unquote intuition search what's known. So your curiosity with Uranus and Gemini, your willingness to go into a space that isn't familiar, you can't reference something you've already experienced, is how to stay relevant, I guess. I don't, maybe that's not the word, but
How to ultimately use it as a tool instead of being
yeah,
its tool. I mean, if there is a way to cool these machines down or use quantum computing that doesn't like need all this water and, you know, carbon
yeah.
emissions, it's I don't know. Will we get there? Maybe, but with solar and wind being blocked here, we're so the back ass wordsness is goes without saying. We talk about it every week. But on that note, let's talk about what happened over the last week, which doesn't give me much hope either in terms of progress for the people, but I'm still holding
It
out
was
for that.
Taurus season. It's not
Still
about
holding, yeah,
progress.
holding out for halfway through the year when the North Node goes into Aquarius. I think we will start to see some shifts. But this last week, Trump and China's Xi Jinping, who have the same birthday, June 14th, met to supposedly negotiate something, but he brought with him a plane full of oligarchs and finance people and pretty much all, majority white men, uh
Elon Musk and his son.
oh yeah, Eric Trump and Lara Trump. I guess she serenaded them. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Who else? Jensen Wong from NVIDIA, Tim Cook. So these guys want to do business in China. And so maybe this is their art of the deal, like come along and then fund my campaign. I mean, it's just Tim Cook and Apple, like, God, man, you just suck. I mean, Apple's been violating human rights for so long with like
Yeah.
the factories, what it takes to produce an iPhone. I mean, that no one's good in this corporatist environment. There's no one who isn't a bit of a bad actor, but just like this running the government like it was The Apprentice with celebrity board members. It's just and
It's very Pluto and Aquarius, and Pluto is retrograde. So
and what happened? He
Aquarius
got
is any group, it's technology.
and didn't he get
Pluto's,
sent home with like a packet of rose seeds? Like there's
yeah, I think there was some,
no
she was shading him in these kind of snarky Gemini ways, like, he paved over the rose garden. So he either sent him home with rose seeds or joked that he was going to, like, and, Taiwan remains the elephant in the room that nobody really talked about. There's a possibility that China will import Boeing's 200 Boeing jets and some soybeans, but there's no commitment. So it could have been a nothing burger trip on the outside with really some backdoor deals around technology, given who was there. we're all getting used to this. This is the new normal, but we have to fight during this year the unbridled spirit, not to get numb because it's becoming so normalized. And that's what I think they're trying to do in
And
so
there's
many ways.
still backdoor talks going on with, with Greenland, with he's still on it for Greenland, still trying to aggressively push and this imperialist energy. Sadly, it's in alignment with the Saturn and Neptune and Aries autocratic aggression that this year brought in. So, and it's going to be that way for a
And
while.
Friday is a day that we need to, keep our eyes open because that's the one day of the year that the sun and Uranus meet up.
The
So
Kazemi, the Uranus
Kazemi, that's
Kazemi.
it can be a very volatile day. I know that Trump doesn't like to disrupt his weekend golf outings, but we have a Venus Neptune square with Neptune in Aries, Venus in Cancer. So
Mm.
probably all the shady, hidden things are going to maybe go down or come out, in a shocking reveal with the Sun Uranus. Be careful over Labor Day weekend because Sun Uranus meetups can create erratic
Well,
behavior. I see
And it's
every
happening pretty close to Marco Rubio's son. He's a May 28th Gemini. So, there's all
oh
this talk
boy,
of him kind of being the next successor instead of JD Vance. So I'm kind of there's a
wow,
quarter moon in Leo coming up, which could reduce
Saturday.
JD Vance's power, which I'm not mad at. I mean, it's Marco Rubio. I disagree with so much of what he stands for, but he's literally the only person on the ship right now with any like political experience. I mean, the man has like five different roles in government, and I'm sure he's tired, but you know what? They
He
could
is
all
a
go take a
Gemini,
nap.
so that could be the
When
surprise.
you find yourself saying, well, at least Marco Rubio, dot, 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 you know
Yeah.
that you're in some waters that are, you know, you wish you weren't
They've
swimming in.
gained some ground. Yeah. So, well, what's really interesting is one of the things we've talked about a lot are these Leo and Aquarius nodal cycles. Um, the McWhirter cycle, it's called in financial astrology, that when there's a Leo North node, there can be a gold rush or this very speculative time. And the last time we had that was May 2017 until November 6th of 2018. And then 9 to 10 years later, we have an Aquarius North Node, which has to correct for that. So in our book, we trace a lot of those cycles. I've been talking about that, and I will be on Helena Woods, astrocartographer, her Cosmic Compass podcast in early June, talking about it too. But the more I dig into it, the more fascinating it gets. And a lot of this ties into that because the last Leo North Node, so Trump entered office in 2017, went right before the North Node went into Leo. Obama's term was began with the North Node in Aquarius during a
Mm.
corrective cycle, and he immediately had to make corrections for the prior Leo North Node cycle, which was when Bill Clinton relaxed some of FDR's policies, allowed the Lehman Brothers to mess with their derivatives and create the whole subprime mortgage crisis, which led to the housing crisis. So all those bailouts were a result of one of those Leo North Node gold rush times. So we had the correction 18 years ago with Obama, and then Trump came into office with another speculative time. So what happened? About 8 months after the Leo North Node started, December 22nd, 2017, Trump put in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And that's what we are still paying the price of. So all these billionaires got tax cuts. Amazon paid zero taxes. And all these companies started doing stock buybacks and actually investing money in PR campaigns to try to make it sound like it was good for the workers. It was not good for the workers. It was good for the 1%. And um, and we're in the effect of that. I'm fairly
Mm.
certain all these oligarchs are who are elite, showing their allegiance to Trump were the ones who got the tax cuts. But interestingly, also the day that the North Node left Leo and went into Cancer, the nodes traveled through the zodiac in reverse, was November 6th of 2018, the midterm elections. And if you remember, that was when a wave of women were voted in. We had the first Native American and Muslim woman voted in. Nancy Pelosi came back as Speaker of the House. So we had the wave of women that came in, and that was all good, except here we find ourselves now.
Mm-hmm.
Trump had a golden Leo North Node lucky hand dealt to him during his first term, but the karma catches up during his
10 years
second
later.
term,
Yeah, so true.
starting July 26th of 2026, when the North Node goes into corrective Aquarius. So the second half of the year, I believe we're gonna see all the things that um that didn't all the things that got swept aside, all the shady deal, it always catches up. So FDR and Donald Trump are, I believe, the only two modern presidents who have ever served terms with both a Leo North Node and an
Oh, wow.
Aquarius North Node. So yeah, FDR came in after the Great Depression. Um, with the with the Aquarius North Node, and put in the FDIC and all the regulations. And then he
We need
was
to
there.
summon his ghost
We
now.
need to summon him. He was there during the Leo North Node when the gold standard was put in, and
So
Leo
he kind
rules
of came in
gold.
backwards.
He was
To
backwards.
Trump.
Yeah.
He started with the Aquarius North Node and ended with Leo North Node, or
Yeah.
was in,
Yeah.
the
He
White
did.
House then. But whereas Trump began in the opposite with the Leo North Node, now he's getting hit with the Aquarius North Node, which was um part of like when FDR did the New Deal and Social
Yeah.
Security and did
And
all these
Obama did the
protections for so
bailout, the Dodd-Frank Act, that all
so
the all the protections, protecting the people from that. So we
so that's
we
what
know,
we have to
yeah.
look forward to, the Aquarius North
So
Node.
we'll see with what the midterms do. I know that people have sort of given up hope for the midterms, but with an
I
Aquarius
don't
North
think
Node in
actually that
place,
I don't think they
yeah,
have at all. I mean, there's still like the approval ratings are low. I think,
yeah.
despite I think Republicans are sweating hard and
That's why they're doing all this redistricting
and let's talk about
shenanigans.
that a minute too, because this is so Gemini, neighborhoods, local activity, people coming together, alliances, neighbors, peers. So here we have Uranus shaking things up in Gemini, but Uranus is also progressive. It rules the future. It rules our progress in general as humans. And so the Voting Rights Act, Section 2, which is, now the Supreme Court has taken off the menu, it's allowing all these states to gerrymander and redistrict. Louisiana, Tennessee, now Virginia is in a fight for that. And basically have taken away they've basically taken away the work of Martin Luther King, like all the fights. And so there actually was a march. There were marches in Selma and Montgomery this past weekend. And I think that this is going to actually stir up a lot of civil rights action. You do not mess with the black vote. You just don't. And so what I think we're going to see are more progressive people also joining. Like
It
the
is
far
like the
right
last
is
fire
banking
horse
on
year. Yeah.
really, yeah, why would happen then?
Well, 1966. I
Oh,
mean,
right, right. There was a lot of civil rights action going on. That's so true. Yeah, I think the far right is banking on like racists, like that these white districts, which many of them are racist, that they're gonna just go along with this. But I think there's a lot of people that we're going to see in a surprising number, just like in Minnesota when people fought to protect their neighbors from ice. I think we may see a similar uprising happening to protect voting rights.
We're
Just
gonna have
hang on
Venus
there.
retrograde during the midterms too. So,
In
you know,
Scorpio and
Scorpio,
Libra.
yeah. So anyone you've wronged is probably gonna
In
show
Libra,
up.
actually, which is
Yeah, it'll be
justice.
Libra
It'll be
then.
Libra then, yeah, it'll be the sign of justice. So don't put it past them to try to mess with the law and put legislation in, but I think it could backfire with the retrograde, bringing some
October 3rd to
protections.
November 13th. We've got
We al-
Venus retrograde. Yep.
we also would be remiss in not talking about other ways that communing with your fellow humans could get disrupted because there's been an Ebola outbreak. We're still uncertain about the hantavirus. Um, you
And
know,
because the WHO, the World Health Organization, US has been withdrawn from by Trump insanely, we are probably the last ones to get the data. So better check your
right,
BBC or Guardian if you want the latest updates on that. Yeah. So it's, and then there one thing that's been popping up a lot is the data centers. We talked about it last week. Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, who's a cancer, trying just going all out to leave his quote unquote legacy. It was kind of interesting because Tucker Carlson, who I can't stand, May 16th, Taurus, had him on his show and was really challenging him. So,
interesting.
yeah, Mars and Taurus, I think we will probably hear from his
Well,
feisty side
well,
there.
what he's doing is trying to build a data center in Utah, Mr. Wonderful, that will use more power than the entire state currently uses. And people in Lake Tahoe have
Yeah.
now been told that I think over the
One
next,
energy company is not going to be able to supply their power anymore because they've made a contract with a data center or something like that. So people will have to find new sources of power. I saw a woman with in Georgia where the Georgia Power Company was going to lay some data center pipe right through the embankment of her yard or something. It would go through her pool. I don't know exactly what was going on there, but just imagine that is how aggressively it's like you have no rights. Your voice doesn't matter. You're the little guy. We're going to crush you and we're going to get what we want. That's the overall Saturn and Aries, Pluto retrograde in
I mean,
Aquarius,
an
somewhat Uranus
electricity
and Gemini.
crisis, we've talked about
Uranus rules electricity.
we've got
Yeah.
this minor grand trine happening. What's the date of that again? We
June
got
18th and
June
November
18th.
29th.
And
Mm-hmm.
then there's another one next year, a third time. So this
Yep.
minor grand trine, which is between Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, they're trining each other. An air trine, which is definitely the crackling. Uranus rules electricity. Pluto is power and those underground resources, but they're an air sign. So how do we connect? How do we light things up? And then in the middle, like of them, they're both forming a sextile, which is two signs apart to Neptune and Aries, these sort of hidden, nefarious abuses of power. Like, why is he able to do this? Kevin O'Leary. Why, like, who's giving him that power, that boundlessness unchecked? So the fact that it's becoming visible, kind of rising like a pyramid there, I think citizens connecting, uniting, working together have stopped data centers from going up in
Yeah.
their
One in New
cities and areas.
Jersey.
And I
Yeah.
think, again, that's just no, you
For
don't
all the people
get,
that thought the Fire Horse year was this sexy, unbridled fantasy ride on a unicorn, I'm sorry to report that it is not. It is a year that rage has to be channeled into power. And it's the year of the unbridled spirit. That's the theme we gave it. It's a 1 year in numerology. Aries, Saturn and Neptune are in Aries, planets are in Yang, fire and air signs. It is a time for action, mobilizing, uniting, coming together. And that is an upside of Uranus and Gemini, which is
Yeah.
coming together. Now we
And
have a
then
little
go home
pop,
and cuddle, with
yeah,
someone or
cuddle. On a lighter note, our little pop culture astro wrap up. Call her daddy, Alex Cooper. Call her mommy because she's pregnant. Just so funny because every time Jupiter is in the sign before someone's their solar 12th house, there's always a pregnancy among the ranks. So she's a Leo, and Jupiter in the 12th house and Cancer for her solar. So she's the pregnant Leo du
Mm.
jour. Uh, Embroiled in lots of scandal with her company and her Aries husband. So I don't know,
People are
maybe,
saying that it was like a toxic workplace environment
yeah,
and things like that. Yeah.
of course, Saturn in Aries, and he's in Aries, catching up, I hope. And Drake has just dropped a triple album. The LA Times called it a Timu Hall of releases.
He's a
Uh,
Scorpio and he chose to do it with his ruling planet, Pluto retrograde. I mean, he's just, yeah, you're
the
not coming
name the
back.
Iceman cometh is so tone deaf, and I don't know, he's not, but I think it was still the most streamed on Spotify. But I feel like you're also like kind of playing the law of the odds. I mean, there were people betting on it in prediction markets, so the prediction market era is probably not going anywhere anytime soon. It seems very Uranus and Gemini to Uranus and Taurus into Gemini. But yeah, I'm sure people were curious, so they streamed it. But we'll see how long that lasts. It's a shame. He could have done so much better, but he's proven himself not to he's proven himself to have some of the negative traits of a Scorpio over the years recently. So Kendrick Lamar, who's a Gemini, may have been on to something there.
Right,
Um, and
right.
then lastly, let's give our human design of the week, where the sun is traveling through. The sun travels through the 64 I Ching hexagrams known as the gates. So each make up a sliver of a zodiac sign and add some nuance to your astrological forecasts. This Taurus Gemini cusp week, we have the sun in gate 8, which is the gate of contribution. So it's both of these gates are in the throat chakra in human design, the throat center, as it's called.
Mm.
So this is about using your voice, the gate of contribution. What is your contribution? Speaking it, voicing it, sharing what your highest contribution is. It's interesting that there were negotiations between the US and China about contributing, but not in the way that we're talking about. But it's, a nefarious version of it. This is really just about, yeah, what is it that you have to give? And then later in the week, we have the sun in gate 20, the gate of now, the moment, being present. Um, you know, both of them are really about speaking and using your voice, but contribution is kind of thinking about like, what is the larger message? And gate 20, which is Gemini. So if you're a Gemini born between May 21st to 26th or so, you may be born with your sun in this gate. This may be the ruling kind of energy of your personality. It's a really great time to just say what you're present to. Say the thing. Now is what you have. This moment is what you have. So if you're feeling something, or you want to express love or appreciation or acknowledgement for someone, don't just keep it to yourself. Maybe that wheel of consent would be handy for
Right.
how to get through these throat gate weeks. It's
Seems
funny
on
because
brand. It really
your
does.
friend who had the birthday party uh, is born with her son in gate 8 of contribution in the throat.
That
So
makes
that's a
sense.
very very smart birthday thing. So speaking up thoughtfully, mindfully, thinking about, is this comment going to add to the energy, lift the energy? Where am I speaking from? Am I speaking from a place of contribution, or is this a destructive or reactive comment? So pausing to really think about your words. And yeah, we would love for you to join us this Tuesday, May 19th at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Our Australian friends can join us too, or friends in Asia who don't always get to do things with us. This time is for you. Our monthly manifestation meetup for Gemini/Mercury season. We will record it and share a replay for a brief time, but recommend being on because magical things open up. We're going to look at as usual, 3 key areas, set very tangible, actionable, simple manifestation goals or intentions around those framed around Gemini season. We'll drop the link in the bio. We'd
And
love
it's a
to have you
free
there.
event.
Free
So
event. Yep. And if you are looking to get a chart reading mid-year, especially as we move into this new Uranus and Gemini era, we have some openings for the summer at astrostyle.com/readings. Get on the calendar, book your session. They're 90 minutes on Zoom, recorded, and can really set the tone and the direction and the focus for you for the rest of the year.
yep. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Pet your dog, ask your partner to scratch your back, and just strap on your Apollo Neuro, keep yourself calm during these Gemini jitters, and get ready for some interesting conversations to emerge while you're out with your fellow humans. We'll be back next week. Again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.